So what's the best way to tell someone the worst news of their life?
I mean, I've told people a lot of truths which are really hard to hear over the years, but people generally appreciate the fact I was honest with them. Police need all the evidence to solve their crimes. Families need all the evidence to solve their lives as well. And then you say they died, because it's got to be very definite, because after they hear the word died, they don't hear anything else.
For 20 years, John Merrick worked with the New South Wales coroner, showing families the dead bodies of their loved ones.
There's a moment in time when you tell them the person has died and how their life almost seemed to crumble in front of you, because the worst that they could ever fear, their child, husband, son, whatever, has died. It's almost that lights go out from their eyes and they fall, or they scream, or they go catatonic, or they just sob, or just sit there in absolute mute surprise. They don't know what to do. They'll look around and go, I have no control.
What do you learn about grief when you work in a morgue for 20 years?
I saw that the nature of grief in its rawest form, I suppose, because I saw it from day one right through to years down the track, and how many people coped and how they managed to go on and live life again. I was amazed. In some cases I thought, there's no way these people can go on. There's just no way. They've lost these people. I'd give up.
The breakthrough in the search for 9-year-old Ebony came last night. Picton police arrested a 29-year-old man, and a police rescue team was sent to a nearby dam. They located the girl's body shortly after midnight.
Ebony came in. I spoke to the police, the admitting police officers at that stage as well. They didn't say much.
The rape and murder of 9-year-old schoolgirl Ebony Simpson put John on a collision course with her mother, Christine Simpson, in the most objectionable way possible.
You know, there's parts of that back then and it's just very vague to me. I know about the court and I knew what was happening, but it wasn't until John came to our house, when he came to tell us what had really happened to Ebony, that I started to listen.
So why did you volunteer to take Christine Simpson through the autopsy report?
She wanted that. You know, even if 50 bad things were told to her, she could cross off those 50 bad things. The police were against the idea. They didn't really like the idea. So I prepped myself and went down there and sat there. You know, a day like today, gorgeous blue sunshine, and just sat down outside their property and just went through the autopsy report as best I could and explained what had happened to her.
And I just reeled back because I hadn't thought of those things, you know.
I took her up onto the bank of the dam, tied her hands and her feet, picked her up and threw her in the dam.
I knew Ebony had been molested, but that's a very light word, you know. I mean, she'd been... even today, I sort of reel back and I think, you know, hard things to deal with as a parent, you know.
I bet she was struggling to try and get back onto the bank as I was leaving.
As a man, I felt, how could another man do this to a child?
Scarfall showed no emotion as he was sentenced to jail for the term of his natural life.
And you'll never be out in the street again, you'll never be in public, you won't be able to harm anyone else, so I'm happy with that.
Understandably, Christine's life fell apart in the wake of Ebony's murder.
I'd left Peter by then, so it would have been probably 5 years after, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. You know, my life was pretty tough back then. I was living in my car, or didn't know where to go. And I rang and went to his house.
Did you hesitate at all when you opened the door to Christine that night? And
No.
Did you consider that might be crossing some sort of boundary
No.
ethically or professionally?
No, didn't care. Straight away, straight mind. I had no doubts in my mind what I was doing was right for me, whether it's right for the profession or right for, you know, the Board of Ethics somewhere as well. Couldn't give a shit. Couldn't give a shit.
So did you open the door to Christine as a friend or as a counsellor?
That's a good question. I think as a friend.
And I just talked all night and he said stay the night. And yeah, it was just a nice thing. I know they're not supposed to do that, counsellors, and they're not supposed to get that close. I don't know why people keep saying that. Why can't they?
Now, I ventured outside those boundaries in a number of relationships I had with people that I counselled initially as well. And some people were, you know, I think shocked and upset that I'd actually become friends with some of these people. I really realised at that stage that she needed far more than I could offer, and I realised at that stage how powerless I was in terms of my capacity to help. So that's when I began to sort of formulate the idea of a support group.
The group would become the Homicide Victims Support Group, joining together other families touched by murder.
I don't think you can survive murder on your own. You need support, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, he didn't say don't be angry or anything or be forgiving. He said, no, I'd be angry too. He said, you know, I'd feel exactly the same way if someone touched one of my children. Sometimes you can meet the most bizarre people who are so important in your life out of the most shocking things, you know.